Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So the new roadmap shone some light onto many of the new locations and points of interest set to be worked on in 2021. Today, I would like to take a closer look at them all. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you guys so much for the support. If you would like to support the channel further, all of the links are in the description below. So there's a lot of exciting new locations that CIG are working on, ranging from new cave entrances to completely new systems. In this video, I want to go through each one. Now, just because there is work and sprints happening this year on these features, it does not necessarily mean these will release this year, as we are yet to see other teams work. This roadmap shows what is scheduled to be worked on this year, not releasing. But with that said, a lot of this content is likely to release this year. It is just not a guarantee. So let us kick off with a big one. It is the Pyro system, planet and mission setup. Now we know about this system and it is very exciting to see it progressing so well. Pyro is slated to be the next system that we see, and it is a stark contrast to the Stanton system. Pyro is a lawless system known for piracy. Its star is currently in a prolonged nova phase and every planet is at some level of decay. It has also been advised that if travelling through the Pyro system, your ship has appropriate shielding to protect it and you from the star's violent solar flares. Now, we have heard CIG state that they are holding off implementing the Pyro system until server meshing is in, at which point the PU will transition from a 3-point numbering system to a 4.0 numbering system. They have also mentioned that they would like to get to the point where they will implement a full system with all of its planets and moons in one go rather than incrementally, which is what we've seen with Stanton, and I get the feeling that this is what they're hoping to achieve with the Pyro system. Now, for this particular card, it includes all the foundational work needed to implement the Pyro system into the PU, be that its planets and moons, potentially not Pyro 5 at first unless they can create the gas giant tech in time, as well as the points of interest and whatever is required for creating missions and systems. Now, it has a 50-week design sprint, which will take it all the way up to December 2021. And as mentioned, server meshing implementation is a deciding factor as to whether we will be seeing the Pyro system in 2021. Otherwise, it'll be a 2022 release. So leading directly on from Pyro is Pyro's space stations. This card is to add small rundown rest stop stations to the Pyro system, which provide basic services and use limited interiors. It has a 25-week art and design sprint starting mid-June and finishing at the end of November. And it's interesting that although Pyro is home to many pirates and not under the UEE law or its protection, work still continues here. These rest stops will look similar to the current R&R stations, as that is a brand, but do expect them to be more run down, less operational, and a bit more desolate. So one location in Pyro that will be very fun to visit is the Ruin Station. This station, located in Pyro 6's orbit, was once a Gold Horizon mining station operated by Pyrotechnic Amalgamated until its abandonment. Now it's overrun by outlaws and a highly dangerous location to visit due to the constant feuding gangs for control. Currently, it is under the control of the Xeno threat, who you may have heard of, and it will be very exciting to see this station finally constructed, as these Gold Horizon stations are probably the first ever space station design that we got to see. But it has an 11-week art sprint beginning in mid-October and ending for the end of December. So all being well, it'll come with server meshing, Pyro at the end of December, but we will see. So continuing with Pyro, we have the Akiro cluster. Now this is a cluster of dangerous charred asteroids, and while mostly worthless, there are some rare minerals to be found within them. So it sounds like these asteroid clusters in Pyro are not going to be appealing to the everyday miner, but for those who are always after the big score and ready and willing to take risks to get it, then the Akiro cluster might be for you. It has a 19-week art sprint, which begins the latter end of January and finishes in the first week of June. Now we actually have a card directly relating to Pyro's asteroids, which is the Sharp Angular Asteroid Pack. This is creating and implementing asteroids of that style for use in the Pyro system, and it has a 7-week sprint starting in April and finishing towards the end of May. So sticking with the system theme, one of the most surprising cards on the progress tracker was the addition of the Nyx system. Now, we had no official idea or word that Nyx was planned so early on, and what's exciting about this, apart from the fact that it's the third system getting worked on, is that this connects to Pyro, which means we will have a series of 3 systems chained together, and this will help create hauling and other jobs that require multi-system travel, so venturing through the dangers of Pyro to get to Nyx. Now, Nyx 1 through 3 are all planets that don't really offer anything like what we have in the Stanton system, and of course, once it's completed, Levski will relocate from Stanton to its actual home in the Nyx system. But for Nyx 1, it was a planet that saw some colonization due to its mining opportunities, but abandoned once mined clean. Nyx 2 is a planet with a high pressure atmosphere and thick clouds of acid not worth terraforming, and Nyx 3 is an ice giant lacking any breathable atmosphere or valuable materials. Now, Nyx 1 and 2 will include the creation of derelicts, abandoned outposts, caves, and unique fauna and flora, and they both have a 13-week art sprint starting at the beginning of April and finishing at the end of June, with Nyx 3 only requiring a 3-week art sprint beginning at the end of April until mid-May. Now, personally, I cannot wait to see the Nyx system, and I was very excited to see it on the roadmap. So one location I think most of us are really looking forward to is Orison. This is Crusader's main landing zone and the home of Crusader Industries shipyards. So there are 2 Orison cards. The first is version 1, with a 23-week art and design sprint beginning in January and ending in mid-June, and it says the tasks include creating all areas of the landing zone, including shipyards, hubs, gardens, and its spaceport. And then the Orison 2, or version 2, is an 11-week sprint, again from art and design, beginning in mid-September and ending this time at the end of November. This, it says, is to improve the landing zone with more various shops and expand the various services around the city. So the version 1 is to initially build Orison, and then version 2 is to improve and expand upon it. Next up, we have a card which is actually slated to release in the very first patch of the year, Alpha 3.13, and it is to expand the cave entrances. This will include 2 new types of entrances to the existing caves, which are drive-in and sinkholes. Now, drive-in means the ability to enter using a ground vehicle, be that a Ursa Rover, a Cyclone, or a Greycat ROC, and the sinkhole will require players to fly their ships to enter. Now, these cave entrance improvements only have a 3-week sprint from design in February, and this will hopefully mean more ROC minables in these caves as well. Even if it doesn't, it'll be super useful to use the ROC's storage box for hand mining, or even the Ursa Rover being able to load up your backpack, create boxes, put them into your Ursa Rover, and then drive them out of the cave and place them into your ship. Now, these new entrances may not mean new cave interior variants, but I'm still excited that we will be getting new entrances, and I'm sure that in the not too distant future we will see more types of entrances and interiors as well. So next up, we have a new card which is titled Garages Utilitarian, stating that it covers the addition of the new common element garages to Lorville and the replacement of old garages in Levski with the updated versions. Now, this is a 3-week art sprint in December, so not for a little while yet, and I'm not exactly sure what this will entail. I assume it'll just be improving the current garages with the new standards, especially as Levski will be making its way over to the Nyx system around that time anyway. Next on the list are Prisons version 3. Now, this is a 13-week art and design sprint starting in mid-September and ending in mid-December. So not for a little while again, but it'll be updating the current prison locations to include a more challenging escape route involving AI interaction and stealth gameplay. Now, although I never intend to go to prison again, I'm sure it will happen, but I am curious as to what it means by AI interactions. So could this be with the guards or with NPCs found within the caves? Or is it with the creatures that are supposed to live in the tunnels? Now, we heard that CIG fully intend on placing some form of dangerous creature living inside the tunnels of the prison's escape routes. So let us hope so. I will definitely go to prison to find them out. Now, one feature that I was very happy to see on the roadmap was jump points. These are slated to have an 18-week art and design sprint beginning in May and ending at the end of August. And it states, building out the functionality, visual and audio effects for the jump points used to travel between systems and setting them up in-game. This will include necessary vehicle items and functionality, so think jump drives and fuel tanks, and jump points themselves and their inner tunnels. I cannot wait to see jump points. Making the first jump through to Pyro will be such a momentous event, it'll probably bring a tear to my eye. So leading on from jump points is jump point spacescaping, and this is creating the environment around jump points, connecting Stanton to Pyro. The locations will utilise the new gas cloud tech which debuted in 3.12 and include rest stops and other infrastructure. Now I really love the idea of all of us meeting up at the Stanton Pyro rest stop, maybe to stock up or just group up and prepare for jumping. Cannot wait to do this. The Spacescaping card has a 21-week art and design sprint beginning this month and then ending at the end of March. So one of the more exciting features, which I have mentioned in a previous video, is the Dynamic Environments card. Now this states that they are updating the emergency outposts to be a proof of concept for the new dynamic interior environments. These are locations for players to use the tractor beams or their hands and interact with all of the props and consumables lying around. This is how they will figure out how players will eventually interact and place all the various props and items that we will be able to have in our homes, our hubs, our hangars, our apartments, and so on. The fact that they are developing this year is exciting, as it's going to be a necessary step to base building and giving us all of that personal freedom. Now it only has a 3-week art sprint listed at the moment for February, so we will see if that is intended to be released around that time or maybe later on. The next card, which kind of leads on from the previous, is Small Home Outposts. Again, I've mentioned this in a previous video, but this utilizes the outposts already present. This card states a small home for players to live and shelter. They consist of a central hub and a few optional internal and external modules, and provide the basic necessities to support a small group of people for an indefinite amount of time. Now this is probably one of the most exciting cards for me. We will be able to have a small multi-roomed outpost to use as a mini base and log in and out of, maybe store items and equipment, or even just as a place to group up before a mission and chill out afterwards. It's going to be so much fun, and like the previous cards, a step towards base building and building ownership. This card, however, has a 28-week art and design sprint starting this month and finishing mid-July, so let us hope that we get to hear and see more on these two cards, as I'm really interested in what they will involve and how they'll work. So sticking with the outposts, another exciting card for locations is Outpost Theme Variants. This says adding themed variants to colonialism outposts, which allows us to create different points of interest in the world. Themes range from abandoned, mining, research, and many more. Now this means the inclusion of these colonialism outpost designs, which we have been seeing on Inside Star Citizen over the last few months. But with a 29-week sprint from art and design beginning in June and ending in December, these are intended to be the outposts found on Pyro's moons and planets, not found in the Stanton system. Now we have recently seen the interiors of these locations, and I am really looking forward to watching these progress, and maybe even owning one day. Next up is a small but important card, Stanton's Asteroids. Now this is a 3-week art sprint to create replacements for the current asteroids found in Stanton using the new organic asset workflow. Now I'm not entirely certain what this means, but it will definitely improve the visuals and hopefully the usability of all the asteroids found within the Stanton system. Talking of asteroids, we have the Aaron Halo asteroid belt. This is a location that is currently found in Stanton and a great spot for asteroid miners, but I'm assuming this card is not just for the inclusion of the new asteroid types in the belt, but the huge gateways that allow quicker access through the belt when wanting to travel from Crusader to ArcCorp, rather than having to take a longer trip round. This has an 11-week art sprint starting in September and ending towards the end of November. For Stanton, there is also a full system polish version 2 card. This is updating the assets, object placement, planet painting, and global data of all planetary bodies within the Stanton system. This, I believe, will be applying the most recent updates that we had in 3.12 for Hurston, Microtech, Walla and Lyria, Selin, Yella and Daymar, and then applying that to the rest of the locations. It could also include another round of improvements on top of the 3.12 improvements, but I'm not certain. This has a 13-week art sprint which will begin this month and end in early April. So finally, there are a lot of unannounced cards, with many of them relating to locations. However, we obviously have no idea what they could be. One thing that I did hear is that Tyler Witkin, who is the director of community for CIG, he mentioned that one of the unannounced cards is in fact another system with 2 to 3 planets. I think it was 3 planets, but I can't remember exactly. Now, he didn't mention which one, and we have no solid evidence as to hazard a good guess, but if that's the case, then my theory, which is all it is just a theory, is that it could be either Magnus, which is a 3-planet system connected to Stanton, or Odin, a 3-planet system connected to Nyx, and heavily featured in Squadron 42. Now, either of these systems would make sense, and with Stanton, Pyro, Nyx creating a 3-system-wide persistent universe, would they want to then add Odin to connect to a 4th, or continue to expand on the jumps out of Stanton? There is also the argument that they may not want to reveal Odin until after Squadron 42, but there's too much speculation, so I'm going to leave it there. So there you have it. Those are all of the location-related cards on the current roadmap progress tracker slated to be worked on this year. Now, there is a lot going on, and I do expect a lot of these are heavily reliant on the implementation of iCache and, of course, server meshing. So let us hope that all of that goes well with the implementation of those massive core tech pieces. But with that said, if you are not subscribed yet, do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, especially if you want to keep up with all things Star Citizen. And if you do want to be notified when my videos go live, tick that notification bell and it will send you a ping. Also, if you can do me a big favor and hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to talk more about Star Citizen, do come over to twitch.tv/supermacbrothers. You are all more than welcome. We always have a great time just hanging out and talking about the game. Cannot do this without my patrons or channel members, so thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.